let me set up the premise because we thought of you, the most greatest player in sports history. So we've created, a new phrase here, the most greatest players, because we were talking about Wayne Gretzky. When you look at dominance in your sport, 8 Hart trophies. What he did is Ruthian in his sport. But if you were going to give me your top 5 most greatest players in sports history, depending on whatever sport you want to pick.
Well, it's funny because ESPN at the end of the 20th century, 1999, they did the 30 for 30 and they picked the top 100 athletes of the 20th century. And I was on a panel and you had to pick them 1 through 100. It was hard because, there were so many. I actually went with Jim Thorpe because there was no television, start of the century, multiple Olympic medalist, gold medalist, played professional baseball, played professional football, but, pre-television age, radio was still in its infancy. But you're right about, now you mentioned the 2 people who I thought about too, Babe Ruth, who of course would, one year, I think 1921, he had 59 home runs to lead the league. The next guy hit something like 24. So it was, pretty much like Gretzky. Wayne was the same way. Wayne would lead in goals by a margin of 2.5 to 1. So I put, Wayne in there, Ruth certainly. Now you get to basketball and so many, I go back when I was in high school, I saw Elgin Baylor play. Elgin Baylor was Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan. The game was played so differently at that point. So you had Michael. I love, living in LA, I saw a ton of Kobe. And I got to put Kobe right up there next to Michael. You can argue that till your death as to who was the better guy. Everybody, for the most part, would say Michael, but they were both off the charts, fantastic. I think for football, there were so many great quarterbacks, but for my football player, believe it or not, I put in Jerry Rice, because Rice did that same thing to the record book that Gretzky and Ruth did. Mm-hmm. He was so much better than everybody at that particular time. And while we're on the subject of Gretzky, I have to say something to you, Dan, because, a lot of people obviously don't follow hockey, but as a hockey maniac, Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers, without question, the best player I've seen since Wayne. And I know it's heresy to say, is he better than Wayne? Wow. But I ran into Grant Fuhr, who was the goalie on those Edmonton teams in the 80s. So he would know. And I said to Grant, Grant, it's heresy. Is McDavid better than Gretzky? He had a great answer. He said, not yet.
Oh, wow.
He said, Wayne made everybody around him better. But McDavid is, I love, I watch Edmonton on the NHL Plus, whatever it is, network, just to see him play. Anyway, so there you would have me. And then if you're only talking about teams, you're eliminating like boxers. I think Muhammad Ali actually won that thing, by the way, if memory serves.
No, Jordan won it.
Did Jordan win it? And where did Ali finish? He had to finish in the top 3 or so.
I think Secretariat was up there.
Wow.
Yes. And
I forgot that.
People were so upset because I hosted that. Each week I'd reveal, who was number 17. And I remember when we revealed that Secretariat was one of the top 50 athletes of all time. People went through the roof. Paulie, you have the top 5?
Yeah, the top 5 ESPN's greatest North American athletes. Michael Jordan, Babe Ruth, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, Wayne Gretzky. Then it goes to Jesse Owens, Jim Thorpe, etc.
I would put Jackie Robinson there. I think Jackie is the greatest athlete of all time for this reason. I'm going to add importance there. What he went through to do what he was doing. Baseball wasn't his best sport. He could have played football. He played football at UCLA, ran track. Right. So he was also a basketball player at UCLA. So if I look at all 4 sports that he might have been able to play professionally, and by the way, you played in baseball, you broke the color barrier, you had teammates who didn't even want you on the field at that time, and you became a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's no question as to the importance of Jackie Robinson and what he meant. But again, you go into this barroom argument. And by the way, why is it called a barroom? You ever say we want to meet you in the barroom, right? We want to meet you in the bar, right?
Yeah.
I always love that phrase, barroom argument.
And it's a barroom brawl.
It's a barroom brawl, right?
Yes.
Except for a bar brawl.
Yeah.
Where did that start? Yeah, I mean, in terms of significance and what he's meant to sports and what he meant to, sports intertwined with society and a lot of everything else. Robinson is there, but then again, somebody's got to be number one. So pick your number one. And Jordan's a good answer.
Yeah, I remember we were trying to get him to do an interview. And this is right up to the very end. We're trying to get Jordan to sit down and do an interview. They want to put together his moment, and Mike didn't want to do it. And I remember at the time, Tim Duncan was playing in the NBA Finals, and he wanted to know who was going to be the number one person. He gets done. He just beat the Knicks. He comes into the interview room because I said, look, if you win the NBA title, I'll tell you. He just won the title. He walks in, he goes, who's number one? And I go, well, you guys are. He goes, no, who's number one? And I said, Michael Jordan. And then he goes, okay. Like that, for some reason, he really wanted to know. But Mike doesn't like reflecting back. He doesn't do a lot of these interviews. I mean, he did The Last Dance, and I think The Last Dance felt like it was a reminder to those who think LeBron or Kobe, these other modern day players, are on his level. I think that's part of the reason why he did that documentary.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think he knew at that point, because, nobody really knew that they were doing that. And their behind the scenes footage and the audio was, you watched it and went, wow, where'd they get that? How'd they do that? So he knew what he had in mind for maybe his legacy. But you're right. He did very few interviews, as did Kobe. Kobe didn't do that many interviews either during that period of time. So they were very selective.